Yes, yes, I know. Hello. Yes, sorry. I started laughing. Um, shit. Well, the problem is without a soul, sometimes your social cues get fucked up. Mhm. Muted. Him, you're the one muted.
Ah, wow. I haven't done this in a while. Okay. Well, I guess it's because I haven't done this in a while, or haven't done this format in a while. Anyway, let's just say I'm collecting people's life experiences before, during, or after being a VTuber, and with a little bit of narrative and a little bit of narrativization in order to then, like, again, it's like Pokemon. I have to collect them all. Eventually, either big or small. And also for any VTuber that wants to come on to actually, get interviewed and have their, I want to say, this portion of their lives recorded, do let me know do let me know via the email in the description below. And we'll work out a schedule, time, and whatever we need to do in order to get this interview stuff, you know, open and ready, like a can of sardines.
Yeah, like why sardines?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just I imagine a lot of I imagine like having a collection of like VTuber VTuber interviewees as a packed together can of fish for some reason.
I mean, that's fair. I guess, yeah. Nah,
Yeah.
but I'll admit, once you started saying everything that you were saying with the narratization, I was just my first thought was those movies where it just starts with this is based on true events. Some scenes have been dramatized for entertainment purposes.
Yes. See, the redeems are off for this style of content. This is a more like a semi-formal kind of stream, if that makes sense. Right, Gingy?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. Oh, look, we got a chatter on the purple app, the purple website.
Ah,
Oh,
the
how
purple
cute.
site.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it.
Interesting.
Yeah, first Twitch chatter in a while has joined us. Welcome. Hmm. Anyway, I think that should be it. Now, Gingy, how should we refer to you by name?
By name,
Yeah,
Ginger.
name. Hmm?
Ginger's fine. Gingy. Like I have lived my whole life almost the only people who call me by my name have been coworkers who don't know me that well and points of authority. Like
I
most
see.
of the time it is I am going by a nickname or my last name, which obviously I'm not going to say here, but that has been my first name is rarely used outside of work and people in like authority, but like if I were to be like questioned by someone, like it'd be like they'd be calling me by my first name, but most of the time it is always been a nickname, so I go by just about anything.
All right. All right. Preferred pronouns?
He, him.
He, him. All right.
What you see is what you get with me on that one.
I see. I see. And how long have you been VTubing?
I've been VTubing, I think now a little over a year. Yeah, it would be a little over a year because serendipitously the podcast and me VTubing happened around the same time on accident.
Hmm. But
So,
kept you going for the first year.
but it kept me going. Well, part
Yeah.
of it was a lot of just a lot of career troubles. Not a lot. I was hopping around a lot of jobs, and there was a decent span of time where I was not working. So it was just like, all right, I can just stream every day. Like I can at least like I'll apply to jobs, and then I can stream and just number go up, brain go burr.
Hmm. And actually drawing upon those, would it be best described as like on and off jobs, or?
Just jobs not working out. Just like uh, jobs just not working out for a myriad of reasons, depending on what it was.
Hmm.
Some of them were temp, some of them were intern based, but some of them it was just like I had like an hour commute, and it's just like the pay and the commute, like the cost of the commute, did not equate to each other.
Oh yeah, judging from the work history that you have provided in your response, in our
Hmm.
DMs, you've been around. Mostly
Yeah,
like service, market, or trade oriented.
yeah. It's been weird. It's mainly
Mm-hmm.
like if you were to actually have had like my full resume, it's mainly been like warehouse work with some service at this point. Like yeah, some service, and then like technically I would say two trades.
I gotcha. You're forklift certified by
I
chance?
I actually am forklift certified.
All right, you're a god amongst men now.
Uh,
Um,
that's funny because when someone told me to put that with because I had a VR headset and then it broke, but I was on VR chat a lot, and someone told me to
uh,
put that in my bio and put it, and I just decided to put it at the top, and it was a conversation starter for so many people, and I'm just like, why is this a thing? When did this become a meme? Why?
which job got you that certification?
That would be when I was working in the freezer cooler section of a warehouse.
All right, all right. When was that?
And that would have been at this point a little over a year and a half, 2 years ago. That's when I
Uh,
first got that certification. And then like every other warehouse job after that, I was running on a forklift.
mm-hmm.
So
How often were you forklifting
well,
during that in that job?
the first job almost never, ironically. I got the certification, but the main reason I got the certification was freezer cooler sucks. Let's just put that out there because obviously like working in a freezer that's -15 for 8 hours a day is gonna suck.
Oh yeah.
And so what would happen is our TO runner, which TO was just transfer orders, they're the ones who would restock the shelves and all that for the pickers who would be grabbing all the product, putting it into totes, and sending it out for putting it out on the dock to be stacked and put into a truck. Well, if our TO driver couldn't be at work, was on vacation, whatever, one of the TO drivers from out in the dry side, which was basically everywhere else, would have to come back and work back there. And obviously, they sucked at it because they were not used to the cold. They didn't like being cold, all that stuff. The reasons they're on that side of the warehouse, not in the freezer cooler. And
I
so
gotcha.
my manager, one, learned forklift, but then also like he had to do other shit because god damn it, freezer cooler always got fucked. So he had, and at first I was obviously pretty bad at it. I was terrible. But as time went on, I got better at it. And so, like, if he was off, I'd be able to run the TOs to be able to make sure everything was going fine. And yeah, that's how I got forklift certified. And it was, yeah, because of necessity, because I was also trained on the lesser known pallet rider, which is
I gotcha.
essentially an electric pallet jack that you stand on. And that was so I could load trucks. Because at first I was a picker, and then I became the loader, and then I learned how to do TO. So I literally knew how to do everything back there.
How many years were you in this warehouse?
I was in this warehouse for 3.5 years.
3.5 years. All right.
Three
All
and a half
right.
years, yep.
All right. What was your what was your life outside of work?
Life outside of
Like,
work
yeah.
at that point, that was just I would come home because part of it was when I was still living with my parents, and then part of it is after I bought my house. And it was just it in a weirder time. So like I would like kind of talk to some of my coworkers outside of work, but not really hang out with them much at all because I we just did not have a lot in common.
I
But
gotcha.
it was mainly like watching like YouTube, watching MMA, UFC, and then just yeah, just basically chilling at home when I was at my parents, and then when I got my own house, like doing the same thing. And that's when it kind of got more into instead of YouTube, it switched over to Twitch because I'd already been watching Twitch, but I hadn't watched it all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like when I moved, I was started watching Twitch and live streamers, and that's when and the reason for that was probably just because I had never lived alone. Like even when I went to like
I see.
Indiana State University, I had a roommate, like and all that. So like there's always someone around. I was on a floor with a bunch of other people who I became friends with, but like being alone, it's like you get lonely and then like yeah, it's just because it's so interactive with live streaming. That's how I got into live streaming and learning about it.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Hmm. So it was the social element that appealed to you when it comes to, or at least I guess that maybe it could be best described as like the parasocial feeling you had watching Twitch compared to YouTube that made you switch or draw pull towards it.
Yeah, it definitely made me pull towards it at that point in my life because it was there is that like more like the line gets more blurred with the parasocial relationship because of the fact that you are interacting with so and that was the thing that I kind of also started to purposefully do. I would try to find streamers who had kind of lower viewer counts so I could have that interaction
I gotcha.
because when you're watching someone like let's just throw out like Iron Mouse or whatever, the odds of
Uh,
them seeing your comment astronomical.
but the smaller streams, on the other hand, I assume that's what drew you or
Yes.
drew you in. Hmm. And I
Yeah.
assume you were commenting a lot, or were you more like lurking, or at least like listening to the stream while working?
It would all depend.
All right.
Obviously, when I was at work, I couldn't do my being on a forklift. Yeah, that's not a good idea. But like,
True. True.
yeah, when I was off work, that was definitely like the people who kind of drew me in more, and I would talk a lot more. That I will admit has completely like subsided. I'm much more of a lurker now than I was,
Hmm.
but I've kind of already. But that's because I've now found more of a friend group that I have, and so it does not. I don't need to go out and find that like social interaction. I already have the social interact, so
I
I've
gotcha.
become much more of a lurker now.
Hmm. Um, coming back to the your interest into MMA, I assume that started even before you had your warehouse job.
Actually, no. weirdly
No?
enough.
Okay.
I've actually only been watching since about 20. I don't know, maybe that job. Considering that would have only been a year and a half, 3.5. Yeah, okay, so yeah, no, that particular warehouse job, yes, I would have already been into MMA. So
Okay.
so yeah, no, that because I started watching around like 2018, 2019, like I got into it like later in life than, like a lot of other sports get introduced to people where,
Mm.
it's their dad or whatever, or, their uncle who introduces them into like, oh, baseball, basketball, boxing, even racing, whatever it may be.
All right. Uh, what started your interest?
Just, I, weirdly enough, MMA on Point, a YouTube channel that just does like list videos and kind of does some analysis and all that. And that's where it started, funny enough, because
Uh,
it got recommended to me because people who watched that also then were watching like other pro wrestling videos because I had like a very passing interest in pro wrestling. I just find like the idea and art of it like very fascinating. And so like that then somehow parlayed into an to that YouTube channel, which then parlayed into a full on interest and like kind of hyperfixation on MMA.
mm.
How that ended up working, I'm not entirely sure, but here we
Are
are.
there any are there any people in your friend group that contribute to this fixation on MMA?
Obviously my co-host on the Heel Hookers podcast, uh,
Uh,
but that's really about it. Just about everyone else like has either no interest or a very passing interest. Like if I show like if I've had a couple of my friends watch it and they're like it's
yeah.
cool, but like there's nothing like it's nothing more than like, it's cool like that, yeah, whatever. Like they're not like obviously like invested in it like that. So it's very like would be surface level with them more than
Mm.
anything.
You mentioned you were interested because of the art form of the practice. What
Mm.
about the art form that drove your passion? Uh, yeah. What part of the art form really drives your passion towards it or
It,
for it?
it's just like the way people are able to mastermind game plans for specific styles and specific people and like it's the element like a lot of people call who are in like because obviously MMA is mixed martial arts and like it's mixing martial arts. So you're doing things that are like you're trying to take like what's effective in other martial arts and blend it into all its own style.
Uh,
And a lot of people call like jujitsu human chess because it's a thinking man's like kind of grappling where you're trying to figure out like how to get this person from this position into this position to submit them to get them to tap whatever choke them unconscious. And that's what I just feel about MMA because you are literally trying to win a fist fight and you're trying to do it in the way that like boxing the game is hit, don't get hit. So you're
uh,
trying to mitigate damage while maximizing damage. And so it's just like the way that people are able to move and to just figure things out. Like one of the best examples is Corey Sandhagen. He was fighting a older legend, Frankie Edgar. And the way Frankie moves is he moves like his whole body in and out. So like if his legs are moving, his arms are moving, his head is moving forward, like or moving back, whatever it may be. So he just is able to in the course of the first round because it was a very short fight, it was like a minute long, is able to time him as he was the few times that he like lunged in and was just able to time a perfect flying knee, lands it right on the chin, and Frank Edgar goes down stiff as a board, just knocked unconscious. And it's just like that's just like so beautiful the way that he was just able to like figure out that timing on when exactly he'd be coming in to be able to just jump, land a knee, and just perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like those type of moments where you see someone just doing something and you're like, oh shit, that is, how did you do that? And then you start to learn how they did it. Like, I love listening to interviews from Corey Sandhagen because he is such a like mindful and thoughtful person just in general, it seems like he just kind of knows where he is in the division at any time and like what's going on. And so I love listening to people like that.
Mm-hmm. Is he a specific fighter that you've been following for a decent amount of time, or have you been pretty much like flip flopping between certain fighters?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like I just follow like I, the sport in its entirety to a lesser degree, but like mainly the UFC, and like it's just hard to like keep track of everyone, and I just kind of keep. And the thing is, when it comes to fights, I'm a degenerate. I watch every single week, even if the card is
Mm-hmm.
on paper not good. And so like I just kind of keep tabs on I try to keep tabs on certain names that I see. Like one of the guys who is one of my boys right now, he's just come into the UFC, has had only 3 fights so far. One was a tournament finale that was called the Road to the UFC, which is based out of Asia to bring in Asian prospects from into the UFC. And he just had a beautiful one-hit knockout. Randy Nakamura just able to just one punch this dude,
I
and
gotcha.
then you find out, like, because I looked into him, and then I find out, oh shit, this dude's also an Olympic level Japanese wrestler. Like he was training for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics for wrestling, ended up moving into MMA because those Olympics got canceled because of COVID. Because then the
That,
next Olympics were going to be
huh.
2024 or late or whenever they were going to be.
Oh no, I remember. I remember Tokyo. The Tokyo Olympics still went on. If I
There,
if I
there was
if I
something
remember
weird
right.
about it. I know.
I
But I
I mean, like
remember
I.
he like gave up his Olympic dreams to move into MMA because he wasn't going to be able to do what he wanted. I forget what it was. But like
Mm-hmm.
if you're Olympic level, you're really fucking good at what you do. And so then in his next fight, just instead of showing his strike, it shows his grappling, and he would just grapple this dude to the ground. The other dude had no shot at doing anything to this man, and it was just so amazing to watch. Like, oh, this dude's gonna be a problem. He can box and he can wrestle. Y'all are gonna have some issues with this man.
I gotcha. Now,
And
now you mentioned. Oh, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no,
Finish
go
up.
ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, you first.
Okay, because I was just gonna start going on about some other guys, like, and just like kind of like briefly, like, because there are 2 fighters in particular, and they're kind of the same archetype. So I was just gonna bring them in just as one, which is ruthless Robbie Lawler and Robert Whitaker, aka Bobby Knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love doing like I love them because they're like barely talk. They're the like look. They barely talk shit, and they're like, I respect you as a fighter, but I'm better, and I'm going to win. Like they're just like that type of guy. They're those types of guys, and they just always seem to get into wars. These are almost always in entertaining fights, no matter what. And
Uh,
actually, one of my favorite quotes from Robbie Lawler is a little bit of shit talk. Funny enough, but it was he was champion at the time, being interviewed and for his title fight against Robbie Lawler, and not Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley. And they asked him about Conor McGregor because he had just lost to Nate Diaz when he first when his fight got canceled and then fought Diaz, and that's a whole other story. But he was
I
asked
gotcha.
why why was he lucky it was Diaz and not him? He said because Diaz took his neck. If he went down, I wasn't gonna take his neck. And the interviewer asked, "What were you gonna take?" And Robbie just stone cold chewing on his gum just goes, "His soul." And it's just the coldest shit you've ever
Okay.
seen. Like, oh, he's serious. Who's gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to murder this man?
Mm. Now you mentioned that you watch a fight every week, correct?
Hmm. Yeah, every week that's
Is
on.
that
Yeah.
is that also excluding all the I suppose esports news um programs? I don't know how to describe them other than like TV programs.
Mhm.
Um I assume you probably watch them as well, or is it just exclusively the fights and maybe the pre-show and after show?
So like when you're asking that, like I guess like I'm trying to understand what you're asking. Is it like are you talking about like the press conference and like the
I
weigh-ins and
suppose,
all
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. That's it, yeah.
Weigh-ins, I tend to just get off Twitter. I just find out if people missed weight or not. Most of the time, it's very weigh-ins are very uneventful, and even the ceremonial weigh-ins are fairly uneventful.
I
Press
gotcha.
conferences are really only for pay-per-views. Every week has a media day, and just depending
Uh,
on who's fighting. Like I said, I love listening to like Corey Sandhagen. I love listening to like Robbie Lawler and people like that. But there are some people where it's like very much like football or basketball or any other sport where like, they're asking like, "Oh, what's the game plan?" And it's kind of just like they're not going to tell you the actual game plan. So it's just like a lot of the same answers, things like that. They don't get into a lot of like deeper minutia. They might like mention like what their opponent's good at and like where they think they're at. Like, but most of the time I'm not like too interested. It all just depends on who it is and what their
mm,
the questions that are being asked. Because in all honesty, MMA reporters and journalists aren't the greatest, but that's the not the fault of the reporters and journalists. That's more the fault of the UFC than anything. Because
I
UFC don't
gotcha.
like actual hard hitting journalism. They just want people to promote the fights.
Pretty much more. They want a lot of fluff.
Yes.
Mm,
It doesn't take a journalist to be able to see what the UFC is trying to do with a lot of what they've done. And that's basically turn the it's basically they want influencers to be the reporters. And I've been seeing that a lot recently. And it's just like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
I gotcha.
You just can't face criticism like that. Okay.
Now, what comes down to the fights, are you usually watching them by yourself or with your co-host?
Usually with the co-host, unless it's a pay-per-view. The pay-per-views, I go over to my parents' house and I watch it with my
I
dad.
gotcha.
And it's
I gotcha.
funny because like I was mentioning earlier how like most sports get introduced like by their parents or whatever.
Mm,
In this case, I actually am the one who more formally introduced MMA to my father. And it's amazing how that ended up happening because I was just like watching by myself at that point. And so I was just watching in the living room one time and my dad asked, "Hey, is it okay if I watch with you?" Knowing he didn't like MMA because we had talked about it before. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And you got to realize like my dad's 60 at the time was 60 plus. He's still 60
uh,
plus, but like he's older than 60, far older than 60 now. He was around when McCain was trying to like ban MMA in America and trying to get all the states to ban MMA. And so he had heard all the like buzz terms at the time, human cockfighting, it's not a sport, it's brutality for brutality and all this stuff. And he kind of had a perception of the sport and a perception of the fans.
uh,
And then he watched it and he saw like the actual athletes and like what was happening. And he's just like, I didn't realize how much sportsmanship and like respect a lot of these athletes actually have for each other. I'm like, yeah, like I know it's something you kind of have to see to believe because you've had all these opinions, thrown at you about it for 40 years or whatever.
uh,
But well, not 40, like 20, 30 years. And it's just like he just ended up falling in love with the sport. Now he's still like at the beginning didn't like the whole ground and pound thing. And a lot of people don't like that. But in actuality, it's safer than a lot of what boxing does, where, you get knocked down, you have an 8 count, you get up, and then 30 seconds later, you get knocked down again. You got 8 seconds, get up, rounds end, go to the corner, you recover for a minute, come back out, all of a sudden, like 30 seconds to a minute later, knocked down again, get up, knocked out. It's like you took like 4 concussions and so many other shots that you would not have taken in MMA. Like it just the way it actually ends up is boxing can somewhat be more brutal actually than MMA when it comes to like that type of thing, concussions and all that, because like you can see every year, like you can look into like boxing deaths, and it happens every year where
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple high profile deaths in boxing, but you can't find that in MMA. And if you do, it's usually like very low level where
Mm-hmm.
the referee really is to blame for what the fuck happened, or it's like you find out, oh well, it was unsanctioned fights, it was not under any actual jurisdiction by the state athletic commission or whatever the athletic commissions across the sea would be, like over in like Europe, Asia, over down in South Africa, South America, even in Africa or whatever. Like you find out like, oh, they weren't actually sanctioned by their sanctioning bodies or whatever, or even here in the States with the athletic commissions, they weren't sanctioned.
I can also assume it has to do with the nature of the fighting itself as well, because it's
Hmm.
more incapacitating the opponent rather than what's the word, punching their lights out in boxing's
Yeah.
case. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there is that in MMA because there is ground and pound and stuff, but it's like you can like go your whole career. Like Khabib Nurmagomedov was like an extremely dominant fighter, an extremely dominant grappler, barely took any fucking damage. And it's like, yeah, you can do something like that, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna come out of the sport pretty much scot free in terms of like head injuries or CT or any of that because it's just like you're you didn't do like you didn't take damage like that. You were just able to take that opponent down, beat them up, put them into a submission, or just keep them down and like hold them and try to submit them, put them in submissions that maybe you didn't get, but you are winning the fight.
Hmm, I gotcha.
Hmm.
All right. Um, Going back towards your media content,
Yes.
online at least. Uh, just before you were introduced to like the concept of VTubers, what was your like online and offline media diet? Um,
Uh,
like what channels were you watching? And even before then, did you ever thought of becoming a content creator before being introduced to VTubers?
oh yeah, I kind of have always wanted to be an entertainer.
I
Like I
gotcha.
have had like especially way younger thoughts of being a singer or fucking musician, actor, like none of these things ever paid because I never did anything with any of that. I thought about being a pro wrestler at one point. Like I think I've always just wanted to be some type of entertainer.
I
I've had
gotcha.
thoughts of being a writer, being whether that be novels or shows or movies, like so weirdly enough, I've always had the thought of being an entertainer. And when it comes to my media consumption before, uh, did you ask before being introduced to live streaming and
Yes, let's before before being introduced to VTubers.
VTubers? A lot of gaming content, like, and it's not necessarily like Let's Plays or whatever, but just like I think like the one that I watched the most was like Chilled Chaos, the Derp Crew, uh, people like that for the most part. And that was most of my YouTube consumption at the time. And then obviously like some like pro wrestling content like Wrestling with Regret or What Culture, whatever.
All
And
right.
then when it came to like on like TV and stuff, I didn't watch a lot of TV. It would mainly be like if I was like the TV was on, it would usually be like whatever everyone else was watching would be on. Or like if I saw like on TNT, like Lord of the Rings was playing, I'd watch like Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars or whatever. Or basketball. I liked watching
I gotcha.
basketball. That was definitely the other sport that I was into, especially back
Mm-hmm.
then. I'm trying to get back into it now because I fell out of it a while ago and I want to get back into it.
You want to get back into dribbling balls?
Yeah, instead
Mm-hmm.
of dribbling heads off the canvas, dribble balls.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Um, and what did at least like online content mean to you at this point?
Online content, it was just there for like entertainment's sake. Like that was really about it. Like I
I
didn't like
gotcha.
put much thought into it, especially like when it came to like things like editing and things like all of that, which I have not gotten into myself really yet. 'Cause so I I do need to learn how to edit and do things like that because it's just something you need to know really, and it
Mm-hmm.
can become something where you can like actually make like a portfolio and be able to like look for like things like a career path in it without actually like uh what's the word I'm looking for? Without like formal training. You know what I mean? Like
I gotcha.
where you don't necessarily like because things like video editing, video processing, things like that, or even like music production, things like that, have always been weird to me. Like I think I like on like high end movies, like and things like that. Yeah, I understand. Like you want people who have like experience and probably like degree in like filmography and things like that. But like when it comes to people who are making things like for you could be an editor for another YouTuber, you could be an editor for videos for another like type of social media platform or whatever without having that type of degree. You don't need the formal training for it. It's the same thing with like music production. You don't need a formal degree in it to necessarily find a career in it. You can be self-taught. So it's kind of something that also I've thought about before as well, just like learning these things that you don't need to have like a degree in necessarily to actually do them competently as a career.
I gotcha.
And that's
So
what
I suppose your venture right now into VTubing is another. I suppose it's an excuse to get you to learn these skills.
yeah,
Yeah,
kinda. That's kind of the thing is I've always like I kind of need like an excuse to learn how to just to do things in general. Just okay, what am I? Because otherwise I start questioning it. Like, why am
I
I doing
gotcha.
this?
I
If I have
gotcha.
like some type of goal in mind, it works perfectly fine. But if I don't have like any type of goal, it's like, what am I even doing here?
I gotcha. And now, finally, when did VTubing enter your purview? Let's at least let's first settle on at least a year when you were
Like,
introduced to it.
oh God, like a year? I couldn't
Yeah,
tell you a year, but it was probably when he was like starting to become fairly prominent. When I first learned about VTubing, would have been around the time I was like watching all the gaming content and all this other stuff.
I
Just the way
gotcha.
the
So
YouTube well, the way the
like
YouTube algorithm worked, it
mm,
wasn't like actually like gaming content or anything like that. But because of other things I would watch, I somehow got introduced to like Nux Taku.
all
And
right. So
that's
next,
how
okay.
I learned about VTubing.
Hmm. If I remember, Nux came into the scene at least got really popular around 2020. So are you saying like around like 2019?
I
Were
think a
you
little before that actually. Like he wasn't like popular. He probably had like probably back whenever he got up to like 75 to 100,000 subs or something,
I gotcha.
somewhere in there, which might have been 2018, 2019. Because I was definitely like younger. I wouldn't even I might need to look into that because I'm drawing a blank on when that would have been, but I feel like I was like just out of high school,
I gotcha.
which would have been 10 years ago. 10 years
Oh,
ago.
okay. So we're looking at, huh?
I feel like,
Vex has been around
and
since 2014.
I don't know. And now I'm like
Huh.
questioning myself because I know like
I'm just. Vex Vtuber wiki. I'm at least basing his popularity off of like my memory of him, or at least his thing.
yeah.
His debut was 2021. That doesn't sound right though. That
No,
does
hell
not
no.
sound right. No.
I think he was still, I think, technically a PNG tuber.
I think so, yeah.
Like this, because, yeah, looking it up, this doesn't sound right. Like, all right, let's just go to his.
What about the oldest video he had?
That's what I was about
Oldest
to look
video
up.
he had was 8 years ago.
Okay, so it would have been after that. Definitely. I mean,
Huh,
shit, 7 years ago, that was when he got to 10K.
I see.
So it might have been around here. It was you know what probably introduced me? It might have been like, no, because I don't know. Because when did he actually like start using that fucking model? That's the real question. Fuck it.
Hmm.
Whatever. I know for a fact he was definitely like the first one I heard about, like I'd seen. Unless we're gonna count Game Theory and NatPat, who you could technically describe as a PNG tuber.
Ransonas do crossover on that Venn diagram, that's for sure.
So, but like, yeah, I didn't really follow his content all that much, but I'd seen. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And like when I actually got into VTubing, would have been around like, yeah, 20, yeah, probably 2020, 2021. So that's when I moved, probably close to 2021. That's when I moved out.
All right.
And that's when I got. So were you just asking like how I got into VTubing like as a
As well, yeah.
viewer?
Oh, let's first
Or
as a viewer, and then we can then develop into
okay.
your position as what's happening right now on this interview.
Yeah. Okay. So I was watching just a couple because I think I somehow found I couldn't tell you who the first one was. Shit. I want to say like one of the first ones was Gingy Snap Cyrus. I was watching their
Just
content. They're on Twitch.
give me a moment.
Yes.
For some reason, okay, no, don't remember this, but I don't recall. Name sounds familiar though.
No,
Then
yeah.
again, your name is Ginger.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I want to say they're one of the first in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like actual like VTubers I actually like kind of watched more uh dedicated like time towards, I guess would be the
I
word.
gotcha. What did you think of the genre, or at least this form of content initially?
It was
Either, oh sorry,
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
either in like prepared content or streams.
I just found it interesting. Uh I kind of understood it to a degree for like privacy sake, things like that, and just wanting to like be more of a character at times, like depending on who like how you VTube and all that stuff. Like some people are far more into character than others. Some people don't have necessarily a character, quote unquote. But like, a lot of like the parts that didn't get, I still don't get, but it's just because of the way I am and not because of anything else, is just like lore and like characters in a way. Like, I've never understood VTuber lore.
I guess it's just a matter of just I guess like giving a little bit of a like spice or flavor to
Yeah.
maybe the model.
No, yeah.
I guess it helps with artwork or art fan art. You know.
That's true. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
What was the appeal?
The appeal was just like I mean, at the time was just yeah, them just being like they were still fairly big, but like I was still it's like watching just to just have interaction with people and just like because even then you have interaction with chat and all that stuff. It was just like I don't know, and they just seemed fun, and I genuinely would say they were.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Uh,
was the appeal.
and after you were introduced to it, how much YouTuber content were you watching, or had they was it just like another part of your weekly online diet
At that point,
or
it was
online media diet?
at that point, it was definitely more just a part of my online media diet. A couple of
I
things,
gotcha.
like I would watch a couple just because, like, then they would rate into people, this, that, and the third,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what. Then I found other ones, and then you know how Twitch works and how YouTube, like, it starts recommending because they're saying you're watching this content a lot, so they start pumping you up with like, oh, here's these VTubers, here's these people, here's so.
Exactly. The algorithmic
Yep.
troll, troll. There we go.
That,
Um, and now you mentioned in our DMs that you watched Nux for a while and then stopped watching him. Do you know? Do you know the reason behind that, or?
to be completely honest with you, I just started to find them annoying.
Oh, I
It's just
see.
like the actual content. I was just like, it just wasn't for me. Feel
I
like there
gotcha.
was a divergence, like in just opinions on things. Just like the way he would like do things, I'm just like, eh. And then he's had all these fucking controversies. Like literally, probably like right after I started watching him is when all the controversial shit started happening. Where people try to cancel him. He says something controversial. And all this bull.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely he's got to be like what, like outside of like actual like bad shit, right? Like outside of like
I gotcha.
actual like bad shit, like he's got to be up there as one of the most controversial VTubers, right?
Outside of various crimes committed by some of the
I'm saying like
bigger some
yeah,
of the
no, I'm saying outside of
company owned VTubers. Yeah,
yeah, no, what I'm saying is like outside of completely unethical criminal elements, like that has you can't condone at all. Like he's made mistakes, but he's never like I think
I said.
that's what I'm trying to say. It's like I feel like
I
he's just
gotcha.
controversial and so like that's all I'm saying is just like the things he says are more controversial is I think where I'm getting it's not so much a lot of his actions. It's mainly been his words that have
Mm,
gotten him into trouble. Whereas people
I
have
gotcha.
that's what I mean. Like
Do you worry? You'll. Do you worry that you'll end up in a controversy in the future as a content creator?
I hope not. If it happens, like depends on what it
Oh,
is. Is it
we're going to listen to a game plan.
Hmm?
Gingy's controversy game plan.
Well, what I'm saying is like, is it because of something I said where I was just ignorant of something? Like where I didn't know, like, oh, this word meant something that in another language or whatever, because someone jumped in my chat wasn't speaking English or whatever, or just said a word like
I gotcha.
within a sentence that I didn't know, or things like that. Like, is it because of words or is it because of actions? Is it because someone says I did something when I didn't? You know what I mean? Like, what would the controversy be? Like, it all just depends. Like, because if it's just like a word, like I'm just gonna fess up to it. Like, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. Obviously, now I know not to say that again.
I gotcha.
But it's like people are gonna make, especially like when it comes to like when you spend out if you're spending hours and hours and hours on camera, you're gonna flub. You're gonna have some like jokes or some like things you say that aren't gonna hit the way you thought they were gonna hit, or you said them in a way that where you were trying to make it a joke, but because like there are a lot of times where I'm deadpan where it comes off as serious. It's like that's not the intent that I was going for. You know what I mean? So if it's
I
something
gotcha.
like that, it's to me like that's something that you can like that's a forgivable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now if you like yeah, if like someone who's online, there are definitely like words and situations you should just avoid completely. And if you don't, you're just kind of an idiot for it. Because it's like if you're online enough, you've interacted with enough people to where it's like, okay, you knew better than this. You had to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, I guess, all depends on what the controversy would be
I
and how
gotcha.
I would
I
deal with
gotcha.
it. So,
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that several of your friends are VTubers.
mhm.
I assume this is part of a part of your main friend group, or are they more like
Yes, and it's
peripheral? If that makes sense.
they're definitely like my friend group. Like, and
Uh-huh.
it's just funny like how it ended up happening. Because so, like I mentioned, I started watching Ginger Snap Cyrus,
Yeah.
and then they were doing a co-stream with someone who was, I think it's Estrella Moon. They were doing a collab with in Minecraft. And I started watching their content a little bit. And then Estrella then raids into Izzy Kai. And Izzy Kai, I'm just going to refer to him from this point forward as Izzy.
Izzy, gotcha.
So then they raid into Izzy. I then start watching Izzy and following Izzy. And they were like the main one I'd be watching and all that. One day, like during one of their streams, I just jokingly at the end just said, "Hey, VC or whatever." They're like, "Yeah, sure." So everyone who was in the stream and on like in their Discord just went into VC, and then I just started talking to Izzy like we just started like after work. I would get home and they'd be in VC, and we just started talking like every day. This is one of those ones where a parasocial relationship actually turned into a friendship stories.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
And so I just started talking to them every day. And eventually, yeah, we became friends. They introduced me to Ruben, Captain Ruben on Twitch, and they're another VTuber who I'm a friend with. And we started hanging out on VR chat and all that.
I
And
gotcha.
then they, Ruben, introduced me to the person who's currently in chat talking. Wild Sophie appeared. And they are one of my friends. They're one of my closest friends, I would say.
Ah, I see.
And yeah, so like th- they introduced, and then Sophie ironically introduced me to two other VTubers in Zadly, who made the model you're looking at. I've done some edits to it in Vroid, but they're the ones who actually made it top to bottom and made my original one.
I gotcha.
And Shaffle, who were who's now one of my friends as well. Like so, a lot of my friends have just, and that's actually how I ended up getting into VTubing because throughout most of the friendships with these people, with the exception of Shaffle, because Shaffle's a very recent addition. Uh, that's how I started to get the idea to do VTubing, like actually streaming and VTubing.
Uh-huh.
What ended up pushing me over the edge was playing VR chat, and so many people on VR chat just telling me, "Oh, you have a great voice. I love your voice," and all these things. And I'm like, I hate my voice, but and it was just
I
like
gotcha.
one too many times of hearing. I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'll be a fucking streamer. I will. And so that's how that ended up happening. And like I said, Zadley uh was able to make me a model, and I mean, if you want, I can switch to that model real quick and then switch back into this one. Because I do
You
have
mean
the
you mean
original.
like you mean like your VR chat original?
No, no, I don't
No.
have a VR chat original.
Oh,
I'm talking about my original Vroid model that I use
all
to
right. Go
stream with.
ahead.
Because I have that still, and my this
Uh,
is
spiky hair.
the original model. Spiky hair, a little goatee. The goatee inspired by Sanji, and the crocodile face scar. Very, One Piece. I have on like the side, you can see like two symbols, and they're Fallout inspired because I love Fallout.
You look like a homeless man.
I do.
You do. Yeah.
Nope, not that one, not that one.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. So yeah, that was the original Ginger MF on Twitch. So,
Uh,
cause,
I gotcha.
and then yeah, we made this one, and I love this one a lot more. This one I actually like. I do like a lot more than the original.
What were the inspirations behind these models? Like,
Uh,
what aesthetic did you want to have in the model? Or I assume you convey to your modeler.
that was the thing. Like for the most part,
Maid? Maid dress? Sorry, go ahead.
fuck you, Sophie. Anyway, that was the thing. Like for the most part, because it was like kind of during a lull between my jobs. I think at one point, I was just kind of there with them making the model in general. So I was just like kind of like, being more hands-on in the instruction than just being like, giving references and stuff. You know what I mean? In terms of like inspiration, I was kind of just trying to go, I guess, kind of Fallout-ish type deal. I was just trying to make something that I found aesthetically pleasing, aesthetically pleasing, in all honesty.
I gotcha.
And that's how we ended up here as well. Because I found the jacket on Cyberpunk meets Fallout. Yeah, that's probably a good actually description of the aesthetic. But yeah, no, that's kind of like where it ended up being. I guess like I was just looking for something that I found aesthetically pleasing.
All right, I see. Um, you want to do a water break? You
Yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah.
That
All
works
right,
for me.
everybody. At this point, we'll be pulling for questions from all of y'all. If you want to, you know, provide them, comment away or chat away, and we'll be no, not me. Gingy here will be answering them as much as he can. Yes.
Oh, Sophie.
Oh,
Sophie, that's not a question.
mullet. No, we can change it into a question. It just needs a punctuation. Mullet.
I don't have a mullet.
I should ask about his mullet. Are you sure you don't have a mullet?
I am sure I do not have a mullet.
Do you want to
I have.
put a mullet? Do you want a mullet on your model? There are likely many pre-made ones as well. So Why not?
See, that's the fucked up part. They're not asking about the models there. They're just pointing out. They're trying to say I had a mullet in real life. They've seen my picture. They've seen me.
No, you live like Joe Dirt. The mullet has been infused into your skull
No,
since
I
you were a
don't.
child.
Look at what you did, Sophie. Thanks. Thanks, Sophie.
Mm. Thank you, Sophie.
Oh my god.
Mm.
Also, I
Uh,
point.
Are you familiar with those like ballistic gel dummies?
Yes.
Yeah. The ones that like have like transparent gel,
Mm-hmm.
plastic bones and such. Yeah. It measures like damage.
Yes.
On
Another niche
simulates
interest
it.
of mine.
Oh yeah.
Guns.
Uh, you know the are you familiar with the Russian manufactured ones?
Off the top of my head, no.
No. Well, some of them actually have like blood-filled condoms
Oh, I've heard of these.
inserted across the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a good number of them are in the skull cavity of the dummy. So
Yeah. Simulate brain matter.
yeah, and a lot of what's the word? I guess it also helps with the spectacle. I argue because there shouldn't be that much blood. There shouldn't be like what is it like 4 condoms worth of the red juice.
That depends. What type of condom are they using? Are they using the extra smalls or are they using the magnums?
Well, considering they haven't been stretched out, I can't tell. Hmm. Yeah, no. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, that is one like thing that I've always had a fascination in is just weaponry in general.
I gotcha.
And so yeah, I've seen a lot of it. Like one of the unfortunate parts about it is just like, yeah, a lot of people like who do like that type of content, unfortunately, it's like, yeah, I disagree with you politically probably like on 90% of things.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. One day you're watching Forgotten Weapons with Ian, I think
Mm-hmm.
his name is.
Yeah.
The next day you're around rednecks hunting down boars.
Yeah. And then there's like one of them. Are you aware of the AK guy?
Maybe.
Uh,
Maybe.
Brandon Herrera.
He sounds familiar.
Yeah, actually ran for fucking Congress. Like,
I wonder how he's going to fare.
or it was either that or he was running for the state Congress in Texas. I forget which one. I didn't fully look into that. Like, I just saw it. I'm like, oh, great.
Right? Yeah. Marty O'Donnell was also running, I think around, where was it? Was it Texas too, or another state?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh well.
I don't keep up with them outside of like when they're doing breakdowns about firearms and how they work. Outside of that, I do not care for their opinions. It's like I'm here for one thing. Just do that one thing.
I'm
This
here for the
video,
mechanics. I am here for the
please.
mechanics. Don't give me the top story. Ginger
Oh my
stream
god.
Ginger stream Dark Souls.
I was about to say, yeah, don't give me the sob story about fucking Rhodesia. Oh my god.
Dark Souls. Did you guys discuss Ginger's Dark Souls streams yet? What
Well,
about that?
I wasn't streaming Dark Souls, I was streaming The two From Software games I have streamed are Bloodborne and Elden Ring. I am not that good at Elden Ring. Bloodborne, I'm fairly good at. Elden Ring just, in terms of like open world, it's really good, but holy shit, I don't know where the fuck to go. At least like
I've heard, yeah,
Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it's a little bit more linear, or at least it guides you in a little bit more
there's a
of
good,
a
yeah.
pathway.
I could have sworn that Elden Ring also has that, just with like golden dust. But then
It does,
again,
but
I mean,
it's
like,
yeah, but if you find like one that's pointing like, let's just say east, and then you decide to go somewhere else, and then it's all of a sudden pointing west on another one, and then it's pointing north on another one. It's just like when you don't actually follow it, or you're trying to follow it, but you don't find the
it's
next one.
yeah. Also, there's the fact it's also you have to take account for the fact that like it's trying to corral cats. If that makes sense, like it's trying to guide a player, which in terms of video games, you should always treat players as kind of stupid,
A little bit.
or at least a little dumb. You know, not in a like disrespectful kind of way. It's just more or less, all right.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fuck up somehow. They're going to get stuck some way.
Yeah.
We kind of have to guide. We kind of have to protect them from being that. You know.
Yeah, but in most game philosophies, I agree with you. But that's kind of the thing. That's what like From Software games kind of are. They are
Yeah.
just legitimately like, oh no, we're gonna punish you until you get it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Suffering the video game. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. If y'all have any more questions, we'll probably pick them back up at the near end of the interview. So just heads up, end of water break. And I'm just going to take a slurp. I can't take a slurp, it's empty. Okay, let's continue. Either way. Site of grace in the game, point to next major area to go to. Maybe.
Wait, what was it? Yeah, no, I know, CJ, I know. The problem is, you have to understand, I am Zorro. I have no sense of direction. It tells me to go left, I go right. It tells me jump, I ask how far to dig.
All right, so I don't know if I asked this before or already, but or you answered it already. I must have missed it. But what made you want to become a VTuber? Like, were you considering just going like webcam only, or more importantly, why did you go with the model rather than just a webcam?
The reason for that was I just wasn't going to be comfortable on webcam, and then serendipitously, around the same time, my friends wanted to start the podcast for like 2 weeks, probably like a week or two after. So I've already been VTubing, and I asked them like, "Hey, do you want me to like be on webcam, or do you mind if I use the model?" And they're like, "I think it's better if we are all in the same medium." So, ironically, yeah, the Heel Hookers podcast is on webcam. So, I kind of break some of the rules of VTubing a lot. So, unfortunately, but it's like,
I gotcha.
if they're gonna, I understand their qualms with not wanting to like have two people on webcam and then Mr. Anime Boy over here.
I mean, like if some ordinary podcast does it.
Yeah, I know. Like,
I guess it has to do with like how it's set up as well.
no, yeah, exactly. Like the way they, even though honestly it wouldn't. Actually, it might be a bit more tricky.
It's like a matter of like a camera thing. I know their screens like go in and out of each other's
Hmm.
screens. So yeah. Either way,
Yeah, whatever.
y'all dug your own grave at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, eh,
Yeah, might as well get comfortable in this trench that you
but
made yourself.
I don't think I actually answered the question.
Uh, what made you want to become a VTuber?
Oh yeah, it was just like, okay, yeah, and then you asked like, what were you considering? I was not considering webcam because I'm just not comfortable on camera, and even then, I'm still not like. I'm constantly like looking at myself on camera and just being like, God damn it, half the time. So, but it, I wanted to stream, but I knew streaming without, when it's just a game, it's hard to actually like get people to invest in it. When it's just like the game on like the screen and nothing else.
I
You don't have
gotcha.
anything to invest in, so that's why I like had ultimately decided to become a VTuber.
I gotcha. Um, was security definitely a big factor?
Hmm?
Was your security a big factor in choosing to use a model?
Uh, not really. Like it was definitely a thought, but at the same time, it's like it, I don't know, like it just never really crossed my mind to that degree.
All right.
So yeah.
Hmm. What do you say? Security is a big part of VTubing.
Oh yeah, for a lot of people it definitely is. Like, and I understand it
Uh,
because it's like, yeah, some people they just it's hard to be yourself on camera. Like you feel like you have to kind of like almost front a little bit. Like you have to like, but like whereas it's like now it's not you. It takes like that anxiety out of it to a degree. So you're just able to be yourself because it's you can kind of disassociate from the model. You know what I mean?
I gotcha.
It's definitely more personal when people, because if people, all right, so like if people come at you for if you're like a web, if you're an IRL streamer or whatever, people come at you for your looks, your this, your that. That that's different than when they're coming at your model for the way it looks, the way it does, whatever, whatever. You can kind of just disassociate from those types of things. It's like, all right, they just don't like the particular art style of my model, or you know what I mean? Like you can kind of just let that roll off your back a lot easier, I think.
All right. Um, in terms of content, did you
Hmm.
always wanted to focus on UFC or like sports generally, or did you want to explore other avenues like, of course, besides gaming, like I don't know, like cooking or other types of, I guess, niches or
It,
content?
I think it's always more been skewed to gaming,
Mm-hmm.
gaming and like yeah, like MMA, UFC, but even then like so uh I'm not much of a cook in general, so that was never even a thought process of mine, although that could probably make a pretty funny uh type of stream just because it's just like
Yeah, it would be
yeah,
funny for you to prep on bacon wrapped Oreos.
yeah, exactly. Like they like yeah, exactly. Just a shitty like cook trying to actually like do things correctly. Like it can definitely be an interesting
Uh,
uh I feel like that could probably be an interesting concept, I guess. I do want to learn how to draw. That is something like because I used to like just do random like sketches, doodles, and all that when I was younger, and I never like did any formal training, never formally learned anything. So actually trying to learn it formally in some type of way, like well, self-taught, but self-taught through learning through other people online, like and just trying to so that could be a potential for the future of me just doing art streams, I guess.
I gotcha. Art streams, you said?
Yeah, just like learning how to draw, like because that would be the thing is like, and that I think would be actually kind of interesting, where it's like, yeah, you're actually getting to see the progress like in real time. I would
Hmm,
just need, the capital for it, to put it lightly.
I gotcha. Um, when you were actually when you were setting up your the podcast with your
Mhm.
with your co-host, remind me, it's something hookers,
The heel hookers,
the heel hookers. There we go.
yes.
By the way, great name, great name. I can imagine a lot of foot fetishists enjoying it, um, or catching an eye of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Ironically, we found out
oh
heel hooker,
yeah,
that's a term in rock climbing, apparently.
really?
Yes. I when I found that I'm like, what the fuck does how? How is that?
Hmm.
'Cause a heel hook is a type of submission in MMA.
I gotcha.
Uh
I guess I guess terms have many definitions.
so yeah, it's interesting.
Uh,
And that's how we came up with the name was the heel hookers was,
uh.
heel hooks in MMA.
When did you think you two start thinking about making a podcast?
Uh my co-host Jimmy I've been thinking about for a long time, and he had tried
Uh,
to get a couple of his other friends to do it. They just didn't want to, for whatever reason, they weren't comfortable on camera. They just didn't want to do that type of content. They weren't that into MMA to do that type of content. And he had mentioned it before, and I just jokingly said, "Hey, you could start one with me." And it was when I had started watching a little after I started watching Izzy. Funny enough, I had I was watching MMA events and I was watching them pretty much alone. So I tried to find there are things called fight companions where other people are watching the fights at the same time as you.
yeah.
Obviously, you can't show the fights because that's just copyright all to hell. But they're just like commentating on the fights and then interacting with people. Like if you're streaming it, interacting with people. So I just started interacting with. I just happened to find them, and I just started, I did essentially the same thing I did with Izzy, where I was just talking to them, and I was just at every fight companion. So and then bada bing, bada boom, we're now doing a podcast and have been doing that for over a year.
Uh, any hurdles that you needed to overcome while either developing it or setting it up or finding ways to um what's the word? Not expand to
Mhm.
keep it up, so to speak, or keep it consistently going.
I mean, to
Um,
keep it consistently going is not that hard because we watch the events and we talk about the events anyway. So it's just
uh,
easy to be able to just like, yeah, turn on a camera and just talk about the event, talk about like the event that's coming up this week. For example, we'll probably be recording that tomorrow and just talk about like, hey, these are the fights, like what we think about the fights, this, that, and third, any like fight announcements that got any fights that got announced, any fight news, all that stuff. And then like after the event, just talking about the way we felt about the event, how these fights played out, who we want to see these fighters fight next, things like that. Like it's just we already do all that, so it's just easy to keep it going. The startup, though, there were hurdles, and the main one was trying to come up with a fucking name. Name and just like color palette and all that shit.
I gotcha.
And because the original name wasn't even the Heel Hookers, we had never even come up in the original discussions. The original name of the podcast was The Sixth Round, because title fights and main events in MMA have 5 rounds. So the
I gotcha.
sixth round being the aftermath. And then we found out a fairly decent sized publication had a podcast that was a post fight show that was called The Sixth Round. And we
Yes.
were like, well, we better rebrand, because if we start getting big, this could end up being a problem.
I see. So now it's heel hookers.
So yeah, trying to come up with a different name was also hard.
I gotcha. I'm guessing you two have like little meetings to figure out like the weekly content for the podcast.
3.
Three
Yeah.
meetings. I see.
No. 3 people.
Oh,
There's
3
me,
people. I see.
Jimmy, and his sister Katie, and I'm only specifying that because they're, they do the fight fans, they stream games and all that.
I gotcha.
And the amount of people who just like join a stream and see a man and a woman on stream and just assume they're dating is astronomical, and they have to say it every time. We're siblings.
I don't think that stops some people.
Oh no, and they've been banned before. Like,
wow.
Like literally, it's like, yeah. Well, it's like, bro, like, if someone said that about like, if like, let's say it was like me and my brother on stream,
I
like
gotcha.
they just assumed we were a gay couple, and then we were like, no, we're brothers, and then they kept going. It's like, ban. Yeah, no, screw you. Like,
I gotcha. So in terms of content on your own streams, what do you usually do?
At the moment, it's mainly just been Undisputed, which is a boxing game. I played a little bit 2K, NBA 2K24, UFC 4. That's been the most part. I've kind of had trouble finding games I want to play in
Okay, I
general.
see.
And then there are times where I've done like streams with like a bunch of my friends where we've done like Jackbox games and things like that. That's for the most part what I've been doing on streams. I could get back into Elden Ring because I haven't really gone that far into it, so it's won't be much to jump back in.
So majority of them have been solo focused. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly been solo focused. I'm just not into multiplayer games like that anymore. Like, especially like yeah, just multiplayer games in general. I've just not been the big, like, just ever really been the biggest fan of.
I gotcha. And when you say like multiplayer, do you mean like multiplayer cooperative, or are we talking about like the like I don't know, like Call of Duty or something?
A mix of both, and then like MMORPGs.
I gotcha.
Especially like the ones that are like WoW.
I gotcha.
The only one I've gotten into at all was DC Online. I was playing that with Zadley and another friend of ours, and that was really about the only reason I was playing it was because of those two. Because I couldn't play it by myself. I'm just like, I don't like this.
How often no, how do you usually want to see a stream play out? Like how do you want it how do you want it to go? Of course, in a way, too, like, everyone has a good time, but
Mm-hmm.
what do you want from a stream?
That's a good question, and I'm not really sure I have an answer for it. It's just honestly like, yeah, I just want people to have a good. I just want people to be entertained. That's really
Mm,
about it.
I gotcha.
Um, I think the best way to put it is just like I just want an active chat.
I
'Cause
gotcha. You want
that's
an active chat?
it's funny because it's like, yeah, I don't play a lot of cooperative games or whatever, and I'm not like a big fan, but like also am one of those people who kind of need someone to bounce off of.
I gotcha.
Otherwise, like I'm kind of like stuck, and it just so it's just the irony of it, where it's like, yeah, I at least need something going on in chat to be able to like grasp onto, and luckily I found some people who jump in a lot. Uh, shout out to them, obviously, like, and it's able to keep it going to where I can actually talk about things and think about, oh yeah, I can talk about this. I can talk about this. Like, otherwise, like, it's me trying to grasp at something, like either in the game or just what's going on in like MMA or whatever it may be.
I gotcha. So, you want to develop a active chat or like a very chatty chat.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things, and again, going back to like the whole like Iron Mouse thing though, it's like I want an active chat, but I don't want that active of a chat. Like it's weird. Where it's like I want it to be active enough to where where I can like talk about a lot of things and people are talking back, but I don't want it to be to the point where it's kind of like 100 people talking at once. But it's weird how my mind
Like you want.
works.
Okay, okay. You want to have like a pretty manageable chat, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So because I mean, like I think I talked about this like last year, or at least saw a video or at least a meme about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like 10 people in a stream is equivalent to a pretty much like a classroom's worth of people on like you're presenting, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
100 people is an auditorium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much like the scale that we're looking at in terms of like keeping track of everything.
It's an auditorium where you're doing improv, but everyone is yelling for you to do something at the same fucking time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've seen, or at least I've been watching a lot of small time streamers with
Mm-hmm.
like I think around like 100 viewers, or at least like 50 viewers, and they've been managing well. I've
Yeah, yeah.
especially been seeing like how the chat is, how active the chat is, and it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that bad. You can keep track of it, but it does it can easily overwhelm you if you don't like
Oh yeah.
keep a note of everything.
Yeah, and to be fair, I went to like the extreme of literally like what top 3 most watched VTuber in Iron
Uh,
Mouse.
I gotcha.
So I kind of went to an extreme there, but it's like, yeah, like even then, like people who have like, yeah. So like I've seen the same thing where it's like, yeah, and it's just funny, like when you're like someone like me and you hear someone talking about a smaller VTuber, and it's like, yeah, they have a concurrent of like 70 to like 100 viewers, and it's just like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I barely average 5.
It's a growth. It's a growth thing.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, a growth. It's something you have to build up
No, yeah, I
either through skill or
100%.
luck.
It's a lot of
Mm.
luck, I will say. Like
Yeah,
and it is a lot of like consistency and things like that,
of course, but
and I haven't been able to have that because of turbulence and careers and stuff. I'm trying to get to something more consistent, but
I gotcha.
at the moment it's definitely been a lot more sporadic
Mm.
than anything.
So, would you say that your current work as a VTuber is more like a hobby or like a side thing that you're hoping to later you're hoping it will later become a career?
Oh yeah, I would love for like yeah, streaming slash the podcast. Like yeah, I would love for these things to become a career. It's just like yeah, at the moment there's not obviously like at the moment not feasible, but I would love if that were to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It would
What
be
would it?
Hmm?
Yeah, go
What?
ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Uh, okay. What would it take for it to become a second job?
Oh jeez. Like okay, what are you looking because I don't know how to answer that
I
question.
think about okay. What about this? I ask you like maybe something to build up to that. How do you define a job, or what does a job mean to you?
I, oh man. When it comes to like
Yeah,
a job is just somewhere you like I guess maybe like the because I just look at a job as somewhere where you punch in, punch out, and just do what you're supposed to do. Like that just kind of is what that's the way I look at a job, I guess.
I gotcha. And how would you define a second job? Same thing, or
I mean, yeah, because like it, if you're working two jobs, like I think that's kind of where like my definitions start to diverge from some people's because I look at a job and a second job. Like I look at jobs as something you don't have a passion for and
I
something you
gotcha.
don't necessarily like.
Would you worry that if your hobby as a VTuber turned into a job, it'll lose the feel that you're experiencing now, or will definitely grow?
A little bit, but like at the same time, like I could it's like I think that's where like it maybe like my own like potential tism is like having a breakdown because it's like to me jobs and careers are two different things
I gotcha.
because you could work at a job for 50 years. I don't look at that as a career because if you hated every minute of it, you were just punching in and out.
Mm,
Whereas a career, like, yeah, you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have bad days no matter what in anything, but it's just like a career you have like a passion for that, like, it's more of you want to do this thing and you're willing to like sacrifice it, do sacrifices for it because it's your passion. Like that's the way
I gotcha.
I look at those things. Like, and I think that's why I was like having trouble like discerning the question because it's just like I don't want it to be a job. I want it to be like a career, but I don't want it to be a job.
I gotcha.
So,
Um, yeah. So
mhm.
you mentioned that you want pretty much like an active, for the most part, an active chat to bounce off of during your streams. Um, how do you think that'll come about, or what steps do you want to take to like ensure that,
uh,
or hopefully like build that up?
to ensure that it's just like it's consistency. That's really the
Mm,
biggest thing in my opinion. Is just because then people are able to like, okay, every day at well, not every day, but every like Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day it may be. On these days at this time, this streamer is streaming and I want to watch them and I want to interact with them. if you're being sporadic, it's impossible to grow a chat in that sense because no one knows when you're going to be around.
Mm.
So it just becomes checking it. Eventually they'll check out because they're never able to watch. So there's no point in following you.
I gotcha. How popular do you expect you how popular do you expect you to be in the future? Especially or like at least your podcast or
Uh,
hope to be, so to speak.
Podcast, so with it luckily, because of the way the way a lot of the podcasts are, it's usually former fighters, a lot of them former champions, some of them not, but who are doing like podcasts and things like that. And so you kind of you kind of have that you know what essentially the ceiling is. So I hope to eventually you can because you can make money at a certain point and like be able to make it your full-time income. I don't know what that number is because that's all dependent on watch times, subscriber count, uh, and things like that. So it's just for me to give a number, I couldn't do that, but just I would hope for it to be able to become a career. So whatever that number may be, especially for something like a podcast where we're going for anywhere between I think the shortest one is 38 minutes long and the longest one is an hour and 50 minutes long. Uh for that to get popular, we're taking the slowest route possible in terms
I gotcha.
of gaining popularity because it's hard to sell that to people who don't know what the content is because of the time commitment for it. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. What
So,
milestones do you want to meet, or would you like to meet?
I mean, shit. Uh, Twitch,
Yeah.
I want to at least, it's not doubling, but essentially get to close to doubling what my current follower count is. So I want to be at 150 by the end of the year.
Uh,
That's completely doable.
that is, yeah.
The podcast, uh, I really want to try to get this thing to pop off a little bit more.
I
It's
gotcha.
just I have zero like social media clout, and neither does my co-host. So us just tweeting it, putting out, and just trying to put it out there isn't doing really uh fuck all, unfortunately.
I
So
gotcha.
trying, and it's just one of those things where it's just hard because it's trying to make shorts out of it and things like that because the way we talk about it's hard to make something that's just a short out of what we're talking about because half the time it's having to there's just so much that I don't want to cut out of it. But YouTube, and I've been going on a little bit of a rant here right now, but I
Go ahead.
hate the way YouTube Shorts works.
There
It's
you go.
it's fucking stupid. Every other medium that does short form content in that way allows upwards of usually at least 3 minutes. YouTube
Yeah.
Shorts, it's only a minute, and it really 59 seconds because once you start getting to that minute mark, it's finicky, and
It
I
does.
hate
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it's no, it has to be exactly 6. It has to be 60 seconds or less, or else it's not. And it's just why? What's the point of that? No one watches. You can't just upload a minute and a half video and expect people to watch it. People are gonna just think it's a waste of their time and move on when it's in their normal feed. A short,
I gotcha.
though, you don't see really you don't see how long it is, so you just click on it and you're like, and then you start scrolling and it just people are able to find it easier. The way shorts work, it's just frustrating because there's so much context that either I'm having to either cut out either before, after, or in the middle to actually make it fit, and it's just annoying because I feel like I'm marketing the podcast like almost ingenuously just to be able to fit YouTube's stupid guideline of 60 seconds.
Yeah. This also then incentivizes people to stick with 60 seconds for their short form content in other platforms. Just keep it
Yeah.
fitted, you know?
Yeah, because like
Otherwise, it doesn't do well.
because yeah, I have like for the account, I have a TikTok for it, I have a Twitter for it, but like I just don't know how to like I just don't care about posting like on Twitter. So it
I
does
gotcha.
nothing for me to even have it really at this point. Um
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and at least for the sixth round, my Twitter it's a bit better, but even then like I mainly just like and retweet and all that stuff. But like the TikToks I kind of just use it because for some reason the way like I export videos, I guess, is wrong and it doesn't. YouTube doesn't like it, so it won't let me upload it. But if I upload it to TikTok and then it downloads to my phone, that version, then I upload that version to YouTube and it works. Why I don't know. That's another bug that I don't understand apparently.
Weird.
But
Weird.
and I'll legit just on TikTok upload them all at the same time, not care, and move on.
Hmm.
Basically cannibalize my own views on TikTok, but it's kind of whatever because that's kind of the fucked up part about YouTube and all that and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Is like even externally, like trying to get people to come in from outside of YouTube from there to here is extremely hard. And I'd actually love to know the analytics of this video in particular, just because I'm just like curious to see how many people have actually come from like Discord, TikTok, Discord,
I gotcha.
Twitter, Blue Sky, because I posted on there too. Just
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
no.
interested.
I feel that, yeah. You know what? Do you want to see the bacon wrapped Oreos that I mentioned beforehand?
Bacon wrapped Oreos.
Yeah, bacon wrapped Oreos. I'm gonna slowly send it your way, and then
Yeah, I've seen these.
I'll be posting it on screen real quick for everyone.
I just, Jesus Christ.
So yeah, it's not curse. It's just reality. Oh, it's
Reality can be
buried
cursed.
behind the thing. Reality is cursed. What do you mean by that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What the fuck have you brought upon these cursed lands?
I don't know. I mean, when it comes down to like cursed things or cursed food, this is actually tolerable. Hmm. I mean, then again, I haven't eaten pork in a while now.
Oh,
If I think about
interesting.
it. No, yeah, yeah. Last time I had it, it was like Fat Tuesday.
Mm,
I whipped up some like this Cool Ranch seasoning.
okay.
Made some ribs with it.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
ribs.
yeah, yeah. Oven baked ribs.
People need to stop
Uh,
mentioning ribs around me. I now want ribs. I don't have any.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, so it was definitely a craving of mine for about a year before I actually did it or
Mm-hmm.
found an excuse to do it.
No, yeah.
That being, I think, an 8-ounce container worth of that seasoning that I made. um, so yeah, I'm kind of stuck with that for a while.
No, yeah, I
So
can. Yeah, no, fair.
yeah.
I just-
So what do you happen to have a stream you'd like to promote while we finish up here?
Unfortunately, I don't at the moment. I don't have anything planned at the moment.
No?
Unfortunately.
I gotcha. I gotcha. How you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good.
Feeling good?
Yeah,
Good.
just I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous as hell doing this.
Oh, you have a nice lamp. So at least that's a thing that should spark your day,
Mhm.
or at least lighten up your day.
Wait. Okay, CJ, I'm gonna need you to explain what you mean.
You have a nice lamp.
Nice lamp?
Yeah,
Hmm?
very nice lamp.
What do you mean?
Right behind you.
Hmm?
No?
I guess. Oh, yeah,
What
I guess.
Yeah, what you going to do with that lamp tonight?
I don't know.
Alright.
No,
Alright.
CJ.
Mm,
No, I don't.
I gotcha.
That's something I'll definitely never. I will never have an OS.
Alright, everybody. Alright, everyone. That should conclude our interview. If you desire to check our guests, Gingy out, links to their socials are down in the description below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever you'll be doing at this point of the interview. And I suppose have a good time. Goodbye.
Peace.
Bye. Bye. Wait, what about the wait, let's see. What's the name? Tell us.
What do you mean?
What
What's
name?
the name? The
I
of
don't
the-
know.
The name of the Twitch channel is
Twitch channel is
_MF.
yeah. Also, it's down in the description below, right?
Yes,
It should
is.
be. It's all. I remember distinctly. Yeah, copying and pasting all your links. So y'all should be.
Secret
I
worker.
swear.
Thirsty.
You know, I don't even know if a good chunk of my of my regulars know that I'm a Bobby Nico streamer. And I worry about that. I worry that people just don't read their contracts nowadays. Just like it's kind of important, right, Gingy?
Oh yeah, you gotta read the contract. You gotta read the fine print.
Yeah. You almost escaped. Anyway, let's head out. Have a good time.
Yep.
Have a good time,
Everyone,
everybody.
y'all.
Link to the OnlyFans.